Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, and in this video, we're going to be going over the 5 best and 5 worst things about the Samsung Galaxy A01. So let's get started. So this is the Samsung Galaxy A01. Definitely a lower end device here from Samsung. It is one of their latest phones as well. And if you do want to see the most up-to-date pricing about it, then take a look at the link in the video description. But let's just dive right into it. So number 1, my favorite thing about the Galaxy A01 is the display. Now I understand that the display itself isn't anything too impressive, but for the price of the phone, it is actually pretty impressive. So with the device, we're getting a 7.5-inch display. It is a PLS LCD display. The display itself is 720p, and we're getting a PPI of 301. In addition to that, we're getting a 19:9 aspect ratio and a 75.1 screen to body ratio. So as far as the resolution itself goes, I'm definitely glad to see that this device does have 720p, considering that it is a very low-end phone from Samsung. But in addition to that, the colors are really good, and it does have decent viewing angles as well. Certainly nowhere near as good as some of the AMOLED devices that we have seen from Samsung in the A series, but overall, if you were to buy this phone, I think you will be very happy with the display quality. Moving on to my second favorite thing about the Samsung Galaxy A01 is the camera quality. So on the back side of the phone, we do have a dual camera setup with a 13 megapixel main camera and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. So it is cool to see that for a phone in this price range, we are getting a dual camera setup. And due to that, you will have the ability to take photos with live focus portrait mode. So that's a great feature to have. Let me pull up the camera application right now and we'll take some pictures of this box. But essentially you have the standard photo mode, which takes pretty nice, clear looking photos. And then there's of course, video mode, and then a pro mode that gives you some customizations with the ISO, white balance, and the contrast. And then of course, you do have live focus mode. So with that, you can pick the amount of blur you want in the background, less blur or more blur, depending on your personal preference. And then you can take nice, good-looking photos that do give you a decent depth of field. So I'm a big fan of that feature. I'm really happy to see that a phone in this lower price range can take decent, crisp, clear, usable photos. So that certainly is very refreshing to see. In addition to that, with the device, we are getting a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, which is pretty good. It's about good enough, again, for the low price of this device. And you also have the ability to take portrait mode photos with the front camera as well. And you do get the ability to adjust the blur too. So that's really awesome. So I'm really happy to see that despite this being one of the lower end A-series phones from Samsung in 2020, they did decide to give the device very decent cameras that are well optimized. My third favorite thing about the Samsung Galaxy A01 is the build quality materials, and especially the material on the back. So you can see that on the back of the device, we get this really nice looking bright red polycarbonate material. Now the phone is available in some other colors as well, and you can take a look at the link in the video description to see what's currently being offered. But I'm a big fan of this red color. It looks great. Another great thing about it too is that it doesn't pick up any fingerprints. So despite me using this device for a while without cleaning the back, there really is no noticeable signs of me even holding the phone. So I'm happy that Samsung went this route versus giving the phone a glossy material on the back, which, yes, that does look good sometimes, but for this particular phone, I really like the way that things look here. Now that red material does go all around the sides of the phone as well, and then of course up on the front here we do have glass. My next favorite feature about the Galaxy A01 is the software in the phone. So this device features Android 10, which is the current version of Android. But in addition to that, we're getting Samsung's One UI 2.0. So what's great about that is that despite this being a lower end A-series phone from Samsung, many of the One UI 2.0 features have been carried over from some of the more premium alternatives in the A series. So definitely check out my tips and tricks video, but the majority of those tips and tricks are found on other more premium phones from Samsung. So despite you paying dramatically less for the A01 compared to those other phones, you are keeping many of those software features. One example of this is that you get a premium feature, such as having the ability to play a video in pop-up view. So you can see that I'm able to watch this YouTube video popped out like this. And essentially I can navigate around the entire OS while still playing the video. I can even adjust the transparency. So that's one of many features that you wouldn't really expect to see with the Galaxy A01, considering that the phone does have some lower end specifications and it has a very low price tag. And then finally, my last favorite feature about the Galaxy A01 is that on the top of the phone, we do get a 3.5mm headphone jack. So really nice to see though that we are getting that headphone jack. I know that many people still use 3.5mm headphones and they're not ready to part ways with that jack. So if you are one of those people, then just know that you do have the jack right here. Let's now get into my 5 least favorite things about the Galaxy A01. The first one is that the phone charges with micro USB. Now this might be due to the chipset on the phone where it's just not compatible with USB-C, but I'll talk about that next. But overall, I'm not really a fan of buying a device in 2020 with micro USB. The industry really is moving away from this, and just the fact that this brand new phone still has this older port is just something that I don't like a whole lot, especially as I continue to kind of build out my collection of USB-C cables. The last thing I want to be doing at this point is using micro USB. My second least favorite thing about the Galaxy A01 is that there's no fingerprint sensor with the phone. Now, other competitors in this price range, such as the Xiaomi Redmi 8A, Moto E6, and others, also do not feature a fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone. But still, this is Samsung, right? Samsung's supposed to be ahead of the competitors, and I think one way that this phone really could have stood out more so than it does is by having a fingerprint sensor on the back. Now thankfully we do get face unlock with the phone, but that is only so good, and actually it's not working right now because I have the camera in between me and the phone, but it does have face unlock, so that works pretty well, but nothing really beats having a fingerprint sensor on the phone. It would have been nice to have, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have really cost Samsung too much more to implement that feature. If I had to guess, they probably chose not to include a fingerprint sensor just to give people a reason to spend a little bit more money on other phones such as the A10 and upcoming A11. But regardless of that, I think it's still worth mentioning that I do wish this phone did have a fingerprint sensor. The next worst thing about the Samsung Galaxy A01 is that with this phone, we're not really getting the best specifications ever as far as the processor and RAM go. The first thing is that the phone features the Qualcomm Snapdragon 439. This processor has been out for a long time now. So considering that the Galaxy A01 is a brand new phone to the market, the processor is certainly not new. That processor has been around at least since 2017, and it's just not a very good processor. And then to make matters worse, that processor is paired up with just 2 GB of RAM. 2 gigs of RAM in 2020 definitely is something that I'm not a fan of. So overall, expect to get performance on this device that isn't necessarily the quickest ever. Now, the device certainly isn't unusable, but on the other hand, it certainly is not fast either. Now, I did run an Antutu benchmark test with the phone, and I'll show you the score right now. And that will give you a good idea of what kind of performance to expect with the device. And you can see that I got an overall score of 93841. So what I recommend doing is installing Antutu Benchmark on your current phone, running the test, and then seeing how the score on that device compares to the score on this device. Now, if this score appears to be better, then the A01 will be an upgrade for you. But if this is a lower score, then don't expect this phone to be a performance upgrade, because it simply won't be. The next worst thing about the phone is that we get the speaker on the back. So I wish that this phone had dual speakers, or at least a speaker on the bottom, because having a rear speaker definitely kind of mitigates the sound quality that comes out of the device. See that I can get a really good close-up of this box. So the speaker definitely is nothing too special. Now it is good enough, of course, to use, and you can definitely watch video content and listen to music on this device and still have a decent experience. But there's no doubt that I've used many other phones in the budget price range that do have better sounding speakers overall. Especially if you're one of those people that likes to listen to music while taking a shower, this device probably won't be good enough for you. So I don't necessarily think the speaker is a deal breaker, but it is certainly one of the shortcomings with the phone. And then finally, my last least favorite thing about the Samsung Galaxy A01 is the large bezel on the bottom of the phone. Overall, the design of the phone, at least from viewing it head on here, is not a new design. This phone looks very similar to devices that we got in both 2019 and late 2018 with the water drop notch up top. Now that doesn't bother me too much, but it's really more this bottom bezel that is the most annoying aspect of the phone. And due to that, we do get kind of the mediocre 75.1% screen to body ratio. So again, not something that's necessarily a deal breaker. I understand that if you're not looking to spend too much money, then overall this still is a pretty decent phone, and you're not going to get the most cutting edge and great looking designs either, but it would have still been nice to see at least a little bit of a smaller bottom bezel on the device. But these are my 5 best and 5 worst things about the Samsung Galaxy A01. These are overall the pros and cons with the phone. So let me know what you think overall about this device, and definitely check out the link in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing for the phone. But this is Kevin here. This is the Samsung Galaxy A01, and I will see you in the next video.